Hello, everyone. And we just saw three beautiful films, and I'll ask the filmmakers to introduce themselves. Dana, you want to go first?
Sure. Hello, everyone watching. I'm Dana Frankoff, director and producer of Voice Above Water.
And Asali?
Hi, everybody. I'm Asali Eccles. I'm the director of Lion on the Mat.
And Mitch?
Hi, everyone. I'm writer, director, and producer of Los Angeles.
Great. So basically, what inspired each of you to make this film? Where did the germ of it come from, or what happened in your life that made this appear on your screen in front of us here? Asali, you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, mine was really just meeting Mai. We met at a party just socially and we became friends. And she was trying to get her endurance up, and I've been a runner for a long time. So she said, "Oh, can you please take me running?" And we started running together. And at first she couldn't even run a mile. But as you can see from the film, she's the most persevering person on the planet. So she continued, we kept running, and we eventually would just sort of run a few times a week together. And I think running friendships are special because somehow when you're out there, you know, you just kind of can talk about anything and it's very open. And she just told me more and more about her life, and I couldn't stop thinking about what an amazing story it was. And I mean, it's an odd ask for a friend. "Oh, can I make a film about you?" But somehow I felt like she wouldn't mind because she was so open. And she even mentioned that she felt like she wanted to share her story with other young women. So anyways, that was basically the inspiration. And I just couldn't stop thinking about it. And I just decided to do it.
Cool. Dana, how about you?
Yeah, I was in places like Africa and took a surf trip to Indonesia, and I saw all the plastic that was collecting in the ocean, and I really wanted to do something about it. And being that I'm a filmmaker, I decided, it's time to make a film that's hopeful about how we can protect our oceans. And so I started talking to a bunch of nonprofit scientists just to get updated with the most relevant information about what was going on in the ocean. And I found the company For Ocean. They told me that they were paying fishermen to collect trash out of the ocean because they could no longer fish anymore. And we found Wyon, our subject. He is not getting paid by For Ocean. He's just doing it out of the kindness of his heart and wanting to protect the ocean. And he knows that he can't fish anymore. So he wants to spend his time doing something that'll protect the ocean.
Cool. That's great. Mitch, how about you? Where did the crazy idea come from?
A lot of the ideas in Los Angeles and the people came from my experiences growing up in Merced, California, which is kind of a small rural city. And kind of a specific time and place. The lead character of Cash is kind of based on this type of guy that I knew kind of growing up, who was always living on the fringes. Back in the day, we used to call those people white trash, which is kind of, a term that's kind of lost its cultural relevance and sensitivity. And then the character of Jojo is based on a theater friend that I had who passed away, a super talented improviser named Jerry Lawler, who did a lot of experimental theater in San Francisco when I was there for about 10 years. And as I'm hearing the other filmmakers tell their stories, it's interesting. We were kind of grouped together because in many ways, these are all kind of portraits, really beautiful portrait in both of the documentaries by these other filmmakers of these people who, are facing these challenges. And, that was a lot about what my film was about, these interesting people who, from different walks of life, facing their challenges and how they change on this kind of road trip. So, and then also I grew up Catholic. So a lot of that kind of symbology and imagery and those themes are kind of inverted in the film of Los Angeles.
Wow, great. So it's very personal. That's wonderful.
Yep.
Cool. How did each of you fund your films, or was there funding? Did you just scrape it together for free, or that's the magic question we all want to know as filmmakers? Mitch, you want to go first?
I'll go first. So I had the film idea, about a dozen years ago. I wrote it out, and I did that thing where I was trying to network and get it funded. And that's just not that wasn't in my wheelhouse, whether it's network or luck or experience. So, I rewrote it for the money I had, and for better and worse, I got a divorce about 6 years ago, and we had to sell the house. And, we both kind of looked at it and said, well, might as well start a new life and start our dreams. And so mine was to go and throw away this money on probably the worst financial decision ever and make a film. And it was shot for under 100 grand, as well as like, each year I would kind of put whatever money was in my wallet on it. So I started off with 50 grand and just kind of like, grabbed some other money along the way, had a little bit of support here and there. But really it was just kind of that decision of like, stop waiting for permission and just try and get out in the world.
No, that's cool. So no influence from an investor who demands certain twists and turns in the road there.
No one reading this script is going to look at this as a product worth any demands. Like, it's too strange. So,
Asali, how about you?
Mine was very, very low budget. So it was all self-funded. I was very blessed to have an amazing cinematographer friend who was willing to work with me for free. She was actually 7 months pregnant during much of the shooting of it, lugging a heavy Varicam up the stairs. So yeah, I basically just spent my own money, and the most expensive part was actually the composer getting the music. So yeah, low budget.
Cool. And Dana?
Yeah, so my full-time job as a documentary filmmaker is I work at Pixar Animation Studios, and they have a organization called the Co-op program, and you can utilize it to make a short film or any type of film, but you can raise about 10 grand through them, and then another 10 once you come back and show them that you've filmed. So I raised that money through Pixar, and then I still went over about 6 or 7 grand just with all the like festival submissions and posts and songs. And so fortunately we were going to do a Kickstarter, but we ended up winning it in prize money right before the new year when it was due. So we're very lucky on this project for multiple reasons.
I think there's a karma to that somehow works out for us. That's great.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Who's your target audience? Who's got distribution in their sites or another sequel, or what's the future for each of these projects? Mitch, you want to go first?
Sure. So we got distribution through a company called Indie Rights. Cool outfit. They're very down to earth. They're very straightforward and honest. It's not glamorous. There's no minimum guarantee or anything. They get you onto the platforms and you kind of earn your way in the world. So, it's really important on for me and the rest of the people associated with the film to try and spread the word through grassroots. And it's hard. It's kind of an art house road movie. And, I have an 18-year-old niece. She doesn't watch films anymore, right? That's all too long. So, I kind of, my kind of demographic could be people up for, a little bit skews, probably a little bit older, 30 to 60, I don't know. But it's less about the age and more about kind of that cultural niche that they're in. If they go to galleries or museums, or if they're up for kind of, the Criterion collection or something like that. So, it's going to be hard for me to really go out and find them in this kind of broad mass media environment, but we're going to dig in and try and do some, digital marketing that's highly targeted and see if we can find some people who have an open mind.
Great. Cool. Dana, how about you? Do you have any plans or hopes for it?
Yeah, I mean, Voice Above Water is now accessible through Vimeo. It got a Vimeo staff pick, so we thought that was an appropriate time to put it online. My idea as a filmmaker is I want to do a collection of shorts that for environmental purposes, and so I'm working on 3 others, one about sustainability, one about women ocean farmers, and then one that's coming out this weekend about the drought. And so my goal is kind of to have this collection of environmental shorts that, show myself as a storyteller that can help out with like an environmental brand, creating content along those lines.
Cool. Sally, how about you?
Right now we're just doing festivals, and then probably it'll end up online somewhere. I just want people to see it, especially young women or anyone who's sort of pursuing a weird dream and trying to, I don't know, have some inspiration. So yeah, I don't have any like super big plans. I just want people to be able to see it, basically.
Cool. Well, we're happy to help with some of that. Can you pull out one difficult part of the production or one really rewarding part of the production, or both, that would help your audience kind of get to know what it was to make this film for you? Mitch, you want to go
Sure,
first?
I'll jump in. I think one of the things is if it's a teeny tiny crew and kind of available money, and what happens there is you have a lot of gaps in between, and then you also have a lot of self-doubt in the middle of it, and in those gaps and in those the gaps are kind of pronounced. They kind of emphasize that self-doubt. I had a cut that was just, I got everything that I thought I wanted, and it just didn't work. And my DP, who's just, the film looks phenomenal because of this guy, John DeFazio, and he also edited my first cut, just as some objectivity. And I'm like, man, this doesn't work. And he said, look, buddy, you're going to have to cut X, Y, and Z. I'm like, nope. And it took me about 8 or 9 months before I'm like, damn, he's right. Everything, I've got to cut that. And by cutting that, that means I got to ramp up production and go back and do pickup days a year later. And that's just heartbreaking. And when you don't have resources and when you don't have a variety of voices helping you kind of build that infrastructure of critical thought and energy, and it's all on you, that was hard. And then the flip side is the opposite of the same dynamic. When you're that tight on a set and you got a guy like John DeFazio collaborating with you, and you got a producer like Joe Brown helping you, and you got a lot of actors were friends of mine. I picked up 2 of my actors from a basketball game. And so when you got buddies like that and you're tight on a set, that's the other esprit de corps that's such just that, that brings you the joy.
Oh, beautiful. Dana, how about you?
Yeah, filming, this was my first time my directorial debut, and doing it internationally was no easy challenge. But and I actually, for budgetary reasons, did not meet any of the crew in person until we were shooting, because it was way cheaper to go get a production company over in Bali. So we hit the ground running, and the biggest lesson I learned from that, because the thing I take away the most from this film is the collaboration effort that was put into it. And I would say the biggest lesson for me was to trust your collaborators. There's a reason that you've hired them. The co-producer who I didn't meet until we were at the LAX airport on our way to Indonesia. I had seen a film of his, and it was the first film that I saw, and I was like, I love that film and I can do that. It really spoke to me. And I just went with my gut, and it totally panned out. We all had such a wonderful collaboration. Everyone brought their A game, and I will know these people for the rest of my life. I'm so grateful to what everyone brought to this film. And I don't consider it being our film. It's really Wyon's story, but it's more about the experience that we all shared together. Is always going to be the memory that I bring with me when I think about this film.
Cool. Was this before COVID when you shot it?
We were filming in Bali when Shelter in Place happened here. So the co-producer stayed in Bali for a year, and I decided to come back and be on American soil during COVID, just to be closer to friends and family. But it was definitely that moment of okay, the world is shutting down. Do we stay in paradise? Do we go home? But it was funky times for sure.
Sally, how about you?
Yeah, I would say mine was probably just the editing process and trying to stay true to my story and not, tell it in a way that wouldn't be true to her. And so probably the most terrifying moment was when I showed her the first cut, and I was, worried. I don't know. I just wanted it to feel right for her. And she actually loved it. And she only had one tiny thing that she wanted me to change. So that was awesome. And she was also just super, I don't know, kind of happy. And she told me an interesting thing. She said, this is so weird watching this. It's almost like a diary or a time capsule of my life during this moment. And she said it was even sort of therapeutic for her to make the film because she just got to talk. You know, I filmed her over like multiple months and I would just do short interviews, and like she just kind of got to talk about the journey of her jujitsu practice and how it evolved. And so I don't know, that made me feel kind of good, and I just affirmed my kind of belief in this like idea of portrait documentary filmmaking that I'm interested in. So,
Cool.
but yeah, it was certainly terrifying showing her that first cut. I had no idea if I'd have to throw the whole thing out the window. So,
Well, we're glad you didn't. How about influences? Is there a filmmaker or an artist or a mentor, a private person that you can call out that's influenced your view of life or your view as an artist in the world? Sally, you got somebody?
oh man, I mean, so many. I love Anya Svarda as a documentary filmmaker. She's one of my favorites. And but in terms of this film, I was really influenced by a narrative film, Fish Tank by Andrea Arnold. Just because of I love how dynamic the camera feels, and it just feels very visceral. And it's about another young woman who finds expression through movement. And so I really wanted that kind of visceral feel of like what the body is doing and pulling the audience into that. So I would say that was an influence.
Cool. Dana, how about you?
I have to say I've really learned a lot, you know, working at Pixar and being in the room and in the theater when big executives are making decisions and realizing like we're all just makeshifting and every film's new, and even in a big Hollywood picture type film, it's all just kind of going along with the changes and making the plan. So I was really inspired by being around that. And there was a film, Jargo, that came out that was about a fisherman in his late age, and he basically lived underwater. It was mostly about this culture of fishermen who just like spent more time underwater than they did on shore, and their lung capacity was just, you know, exceeded anything that we see normally. So every time the DP editor and I had like a block where we were trying to figure something out, we would reference that film because we always all really loved it. And then the co-producer that I brought along, Eric Ebner, he is the one that whose film I saw that inspired me, and now he's working on 2 other projects with me. And so, you know, I'm super inspired by those people that are around me.
Cool. Mitch, how about you?
You know, I'd say I went to art school up where both the other filmmakers lived at San Francisco Art Institute, and that was probably the most inspiring environment for me. And they were just, you know, it's a real kind of radical and dedicated group of artists who go there and teach there. Can't, you know, my MFA was in painting, so I came out of the painting world, and the stories of my paintings became more rich and more detailed to where I felt I had to grab a camera and you know, run those narratives out on film. The person who's probably, you know, influential is a poet and an art critic named Bill Berkson, who came up in the 60s in New York, and just he really sort of like normalized the life of an artist and normalized the choice to just make whatever you got to make, right? Like there's opportunities to rewrite the script and make it more conventional. But, you know, from the Art Institute and from the influence of those artists and people, you know, the kind of lightning rod is always like, no, what's resonating with you? So, you know, I think that really kind of kept this film on track, you know, especially not having the resources to be kind of dedicated to a singular vision.
Wow, cool. So if each of you were starting over at the beginning of your career, some of you it's not so far back, but what advice would you give someone if they were coming along to try to do what you've done, or, you know, start their career out, that you've learned from this experience? What could be better if you were starting again? Dana, you want to go first?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is trust your voice. I feel like as a young student and then a young filmmaker, you're always often in the room with other people that are making decisions, and your role is just to kind of react to those decisions. And that's a great place to be too. You learn a lot. But it wasn't until I directed this first film that I really found that I had a voice and something to say, and people react to it. You know, I thought I was making a film for my friends and family, and it just won its 10th award. So it's like, you really don't know what you have to say until you put it out there and share it with others. So I would say don't be afraid of that.
Nice. Asali, how about you?
I guess mine would be similar. I would say just go for it. Like, just make things, make more things than you think you can. Like, don't wait around for the perfect idea. I think I spent a lot of my early 20s and later 20s even like thinking, oh, well, that's not good enough. I don't want to do that. But you just have to make things and keep trying, because everything's going to be imperfect and you're going to learn something from everything. And filmmaking is so much about luck. It's almost like you never know which project is going to turn out great. So you just have to keep doing it and keep practicing. And it's all practice, I think.
Great. So we get to see each of you every year at the festival, then that means.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Mitch, how about you?
Yeah, I'm saying it's ditto. Just make it. You know, don't wait for permission. Don't sit on the sidelines and hope that there's these other people that know how to do it better than you. And you get those people who believe in the project, right? It's not about them believing in you. It's like, get those people around that believe in that project for you and make it. And I'd say the same thing that Asali said. Everything can be imperfect, but hold yourself to excellence. Keep that as a bar as you're making it. It's still not going to be perfect, but if you can kind of balance those two things, as far as not waiting too long and doing it, and then when you do it, put everything you got into it and kind of hold yourself to a high standard.
Cool. Well, it's been great talking to you all. The last question is, what's next? Do you have another project or a sequel, or just hitting the circuit? What's the next plan you have for a film or the future? Asali?
I actually just wrapped a shoot yesterday. So I'm a little tired. It's a narrative project. It's actually a Persian language film that I'm collaborating with my friend to make, about justice in Iran and females who sort of go against the law. But another documentary project that's also in the works is about a small town in Nevada and the local wild donkeys that live there.
I love it. Love it. Dana, how about you?
Yeah, so this weekend we have a film coming out that I directed for American Rivers called Silent River, and it's about the drought and how it's affecting Colorado, but really all of the United States and then even other countries. So that should be really exciting to see that get out to the world. And then my next kind of baby is called Gardeners of the Sea, and it's all about women ocean farming using sea plants and similar, like how their ancestors did, and the benefits that has for our environment and ourselves, the nutritional benefits, and then also just using the ocean as more of a resource instead of using up land.
Nice.
And that was filmed in Hawaii, so we're in post on that now.
Oh, good for you. Cool. Mitch, what's next?
I got a couple of finished scripts. One's called The Condor. I want to shoot that back in my hometown in Merced. And it's kind of based on small town criminal lawyer and that huge generation gap between the boomers and I guess everyone else at this point. And then an off the wall comedy, kind of similar in tone to Los Angeles, called American Heat, based on my time actually working in South San Francisco for a heating and ventilating company. And then I have kind of a very bizarre project that I'm wrapping up in post-production from found footage called The 7 Dreams of Al Capone.